To talk about Unity3D, we've got Guy. We're very pleased to have Guy here. He has a wealth of experience. I get 20-odd years in the games industry. He's done Xbox things with Kinect. He's set up children's portals. He's a great guy to listen to. So, Guy, tell me all about Unity3D.
I'm old, yeah. So thank you very much for taking the time and being here. I know it's still morning and last day of the show. What I'm going to do is to run you through a few tips that we learned at Sidekick along the way when we did cross-platform development, and we used Unity3D. It's not a sponsored, we're good friends with the Unity3D guys, but it's not sponsored. And actually, we'll say some things that you need to check and not only praises about the platform. So really to give you kind of a quick background, I'm running for the last 4 years a game development studio back in Tel Aviv. We have been doing a lot of work for hire and some licensing work cross-platform. When we started, we actually focused on motion control games and done a few games over the Xbox Kinect. We've done Mini Ninja Adventures for Square Enix. We've worked with crazy technologies like the Leap Motion, the Oculus, motion control stuff over webcams, and you know, part of the high-tech scene in Israel. But over the last, I want to say, 2 years, we're actually transitioned very well also into the mobile market and specifically into the free-to-play market. And that transition actually was slow. It needed us not only to change the design and development process, but also the tools that we used. If we used other engines, like old engines, like Gamebryo back in the day, we were looking to get pretty much the same team to use similar development process and using another engine that is more updated and will allow us to go cross-platform, which was one of our needs. And finally, we decided to work with the Unity3D platform, and we'll talk about that. So our first game that we did, or actually second, but definitely the biggest game that we have already launched to market was Romans for Mars. We work with a publisher called Majesco, and they opened a new mobile division called Majesco Mobile. Romans for Mars is a tapping game, free-to-play tapping game. It was launched back in November. It got featured by Apple, by Google, by Microsoft, and it will be getting some feature and love from the Amazon Kindle Fire people. Got a lot of downloads, got a lot of interest from the platform makers, and it was developed with Unity and kind of our first go-to-market. You know, that was our big case for going cross-platform, practically going into 4 different platforms. We right now have another game that is in soft launch, and that game's actually going web and mobile, Android first. It's a lot of work, and you know, I think when we talked about this session, and other people are asking me, why do you want to go cross-platform? And mainly, the main reason is if you go cross-platform at the right timing, you make more money. You have more options. As importantly, sometime, and we had some, you know, other developers that we are in touch with or developing. Sometimes they launch their game on one platform, let's say on Steam, and their audience is actually not there. Their audience is on tablets, on the web somewhere. It could vice versa, of course. The audience, there's a very clear segmentation of the audience that is using this or that device. And suddenly you can find your niche audience, the people that will get engaged with your game on a totally different platform, and you want to be open to that. And obviously, if you're doing well, you want to grow your brand awareness, you want to grow your baby game into a bigger brand, and for that you have to go cross-platform. For that you need to be on practically every device that interacts with more audiences, and you can see obviously successful games are doing that at a pace in a very, very good way. But obviously for big developers and definitely for small developers, they said, okay, I understand I want to go cross-platform, but how do I do that? It's obvious that I want to do that, but how do I see a return on my investment? It would take money, it would take time. So how can I optimize this process, and how can I minimize the investment, whether I'm a big company that need to invest or a bunch of guys who are working on their next game. There's still time, and there are always still alternatives for your time to do maybe other stuff. So I'm humbly here to give you some, a few tips on minimizing that risk, on trying to make better when going cross-platform. I think the first the advice that I can give is start with one platform. As you can see here, there can be only one, and there's one perfect first platform for your game, whether it's casual, mid-core, core, whatever, and you need to figure out what that platform is. And based on developing for that platform, releasing through soft launch and launch phases, what's called the beta sometime, you need to decide how you want to grow and what would be your next platform and the next platform after that. Some just really simple factors when we look at the different platforms, especially on the mobile side. Android is easy to update. You can fairly quickly, not as quickly as the web, but you can fairly quickly update a new build and see how the market reacts to that market. iOS, obviously, still a lot of, I want to say most, but a lot of the business is there, and that's definitely, you get a lot of exposure if you are hitting some good numbers there. Amazon is new, great, there's 7-inch and the new 10-inch tablets that the Kindle has is amazing. Great gaming platform, I have to say. There's niche audience with high revenue, high average revenue per user. And Windows 8 is new. They're putting a lot of resources behind that platform. And since it's new, you can actually kind of go above the white noise of other games and get your exposure. You don't need to be the King, the Zynga, or the Wooga of the world to get in front of people. For that, you need to know the platform. So I don't expect everybody to be that analytical business person. Most of us just in the business to make games and have great stuff. But it's good to know where we're going, and it's good to kind of maybe sometime take a step back or use other resources or other people to kind of look really at what is the platform from a technical and from a business perspective. So obviously the hardware and software limitation, maybe your game needs more resources, and you need to make sure that when you launch, you're supporting as many platforms, even if you're focusing on one operating system. So devices are not the same around the world. The Samsung 2S or 2.3 have European flavor, have American flavor. The same goes for the Windows Phone as an example. There's something that you need to be kind of in touch with the market, even through a very rigorous QA process, but certainly if you're a smaller outfit, you don't know that all the time. You need to make some decisions, and definitely one of the tools that even we used was really to all the time keep updated by the feedback that we get. Suddenly in certain countries, in Asia or in Europe, we get some feedback that the game doesn't work there, although it works on the same phone in other territories, and we figure out very quickly what's wrong there. The audiences, again, and their behavior within the game can be different, even using the same platform. Definitely between platforms there is different audience between the iOS and Android and Windows market. We talked about that before, but even within the different platforms, so tablet users and phone users are behaving differently, and you want sometimes to tweak your game for that territory or for that hardware. Services providers, some service providers, especially analytics and ad networks, are performing better on certain OSs. Obviously, iOS has a very rich ecosystem, and Android is, rapidly going there. Also, different territories play. You want to consider that. Who would be the best service provider for your game in certain territory on a certain hardware? It doesn't have to sound too complex, and this is why you want to focus at first. And maybe sometimes, most importantly, how you can get your exposure in that certain territory on that certain hardware. So all of these elements, which might sound a bit too complex, but you outline and you see what is your best bet instead of just betting on all the platforms, on all the territories at one time. You want to focus your resources, and that really depends at the end of the day on what type of games and what genre you're making and what's the business model behind that. And obviously, you want to grow your knowledge base around that all the time. Things are changing now on a quarterly basis, sometimes even on a monthly basis. New things pop out, new ideas pop out, new rules by the store managers, the Apples, the Googles of the world, is there, and you want to kind of keep tab on what's happening there. It all depends on the type of game and the size of your team. The smaller it is, you want to be more focused. When it comes to actual development, certainly with when you have a lot of platforms, you want to scale up, never down. So start with a minimum almost platform in that ecosystem that you decided to launch with, and then start to scale up for stronger, better platforms, whether it's the CPU, the graphic. Do that. Scaling down is very, very hard. It's way more time consuming. It's way more frustrating, I can tell you, especially for the creative team. So what you want to do is really create a kind of a system or a game that would work on your minimal platform, and then scale that up depending on the skin, on the screen size, on the resolution, and the CPU and other abilities. When you work certainly with engines like Unity3D, but other engine, and again, Unity has a very rich ecosystem in that aspect. You work with plugins, you work with third parties, whether they're service providers that monetize or help you monetize your game, or ability that adds certain features to your game. You need to work with plugins, and these plugins not necessarily cover all the operating systems. So choose your plugins and plugin providers well, understanding that if you signed up with a service provider that would give you a great service, whether it's by a feature or by monetizing or analytics on iOS, they wouldn't necessarily give you a service or the same service on Android or on Windows phone. Be very aware of that. Also be very aware that it would never take you 5 minutes, as most of them promise you. It would take you some time to integrate it. And definitely when you scale up, it's something to think about as you continue to work and optimize and grow your game. Just to touch the last point, always when planning, if you're planning, put more time around integration of plugins. It always takes more time. They always update. You always need to go through QA. So take into account it will take time, and put that in your planning. Another, I would say, service management issue, which is not only technical, it's also very much a marketing issue today. try to have a lot of backend data on each platform and for each build. When you have a lot of information that inside the game that can be managed remotely, it's a better choice as you don't need to ship a new build and a new update to the market. You can manage a lot of the internal game design elements within your home through a server. You can update a lot of elements without updating the actual application, and that's important, that's critical. It's not very hard to do at the end of the day. I mean, there are some service providers, but you can actually do that with services, and some even free services that some of the bigger providers are giving you. That said, take into account that because audiences, because players are behaving differently on different platforms, you want to possibly make different set of data for different platforms, because just an example, players on iOS like to play a bit more in each level than players on Android who have shorter patient time and they want a quicker play. And all affects eventually the funnel and the fun gameplay of people play. Think about A/B testing, and think again about if you want to actually build that internally or work with a third party, depending on the focus of your business and usually the size of the team. And two extras, because we have time. Always, again, regardless of the engine and technology, backend technology you use, factor at screen sizes. The more devices you have out, you need to think about it. I put here 3 links of articles or data points that really help with the statistic, thinking about it. I'll get the presentation up online, but and happy to send it over email. And actually do speak about, if we are speaking about using Unity3D, some of you may know they actually cover also consoles. I know that here in Casual Connect a lot of people are not speaking about it, but it's definitely an option. And very much touching my previous point of scaling up, you can scale up taking into account interfaces, controllers, games that you've done on mobile or tablet into consoles, into the Xboxes, the Nintendos, and the PlayStations of the world, or handheld devices. If you are planning to do that, my suggestion is to go again from the lowest platform, so mobile or tablet, and then grow to consoles. There's more success cases going this than the other way around. So starting with console and trying to mobile. And TRC, which means the process where the platform manager is checking you, sort of what Apple is doing, but much, much, much harder, is very, very tough. Microsoft, Sony, and other console makers put a lot of effort to make sure that the games that go on their console actually are in line with the player's expectation. It takes way more time. 5 days, 10 days with Apple is nothing, seriously, when you go on consoles. So take that into account as well. The process is definitely tougher for the quality management that the console owners have. So to sum it up, prioritize your platform. Start with one preferably and grow from there. Know the platform, so do a bit of your homework and keep that homework updated to make a good decision and to update and maintain your game as you grow. Scale up, never down. Go from mobile to or smaller low-end devices to the upper one and create a few builds around that. Select your plugins and service providers very carefully. See that you can grow with a service provider, and don't be afraid to select one service provider for one platform and another for a different one. And manage your backend data covering all platform from one place, but make sure that you leave option to have different data for different platforms because audience behave differently. That's about it. Thank you very much. I hope it was helpful, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Guy. And Guy will be coming back later on this afternoon to sit on a panel where we'll be debating HTML5 and Unity. So
Yes, I will.
just getting things sort of going, your latest project, you decided to go on Unity3D. Can you tell us what the single biggest factor was why you selected that rather than some other technology that you could have used?
Well, the team was used to work with the game engine back from our PC and console days. We were looking for a game engine. We weren't looking to go native. We knew that we needed to go cross-platform fairly fast, and we knew that the game would be 3D at heart. These factors, a few more, but actually these factors, and I can add that also the talent pool in Israel is oriented toward Unity. So it was easier for us to find programmers, especially. You know, given all these factors, we decided that Unity would be our platform, certainly for that game.
Do we have any questions for Guy from the audience? Well, maybe I'll carry on asking questions. Do you have much experience with the Unity Asset Store? Would you like to explain what that is to the audience and whether you've actually used it or not?
Sure. So the short answer is that we used a lot, or we are still using a lot, the Asset Store of Unity. Unity, and this is another factor to take into account, has a massive ecosystem of service providers, of people and developers, studios that are using Unity and are happy to either share or sell the stuff that they've been. The Asset Store is an online store that includes plugins, assets, whether they're technical, graphic, or others, that are on that store, and you can download them very easily, buy them or for free. And that entire ecosystem around the engine actually gives you a lot of benefit in bringing games very quickly to market, because a lot of the work that you may need to do was already done by somebody else. We're buying a lot of plugins. We are buying assets from that store, again, graphic assets. You don't need to invent a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff is there for you. And I know that some even small developers are creating assets and selling them successfully, and it's an extra revenue channel for the smaller indies. And that's something to consider from the sales side. You actually have a nice audience out there that is using Unity and happy to make a shorter development cycle, but just buying stuff that's already made.
So it sounds like you're very happy as a happy customer, a consumer of the store. Have you actually experimented with putting things into the store yourselves?
We haven't. We're actually now doing that with a certain plugin that we developed with a technology partner of ours.
Any more questions for Guy? Oh.
Hey, do you know about HTML5 and Unity? I'm a Unity developer also. I don't know what's going on with Unity exporting to HTML5 since it's all the buzz now.
So I don't know. I don't work for Unity. And I honestly don't know what their plans are.
I think we'll find more about that on the panel this afternoon about 2 o'clock, and there'll be a bloodbath. They'll be arguing backwards and forwards from that. Well, thank you once more, Guy. That was awesome. Thank you.
Thank you very much.